So we're going to talk about, I want to talk about that day that you popped up on the table and said, you're a shaman.
Okay.
Okay. I can't stop laughing. Okay. I always say okay, and I promised I was going to stop saying okay. So we're looking here. This is
Okay.
the place where we're looking. And so Vanessa Goldine here with Bridge to Health and the Awaken and Evolve Learning Center. And today I am with Nicolle. Don't tell anybody, I have favorites. So pretty much everybody that I've been interviewing are in my favorites. Now, it's just, as a practitioner, I'm going to start crying. As a practitioner, some people really get it and they really respond, and to watch them evolve is just like my absolute joy. And so
you're going to make me cry.
We're both gonna be crying. There's been lots of crying when we do these interviews. So Nicolle is definitely one of those individuals, and so today we're focusing a little bit in on the modality, which is really, you can't really say that's a modality, but it is definitely a position that I have come to accept that I am in, and that is as a shamanistic teacher. And the interesting history of that is that over the course of about 3 or 4 years before Nicolle had started working with me, I would just be in random places. I was on an airplane and a woman looked at me who was sitting next to me after our conversation for a little bit. And she says to me, "Are you a shaman?" And I go, "Well, a lot of people have asked me that." And then anyway, that kept happening. And then I read up a little bit more on shamanistic, what is a shaman? And a shaman is predominantly a teacher, but a shaman is also a spiritual guide, offers spiritual guidance, not necessarily spiritual guide per se, but offers guidance. And then I did my shamanistic studies with Dr. Welch and the Temple of Celestial Fire, and then I went, oh yeah, okay, this is definitely a component of my practice. Okay, that's a long story, but now Nicolle is going to tell you about the day that she sat up on the table after having a Chinit song session and said to me,
"She's my shaman." And that's when I knew. I guess when I first came to Vanessa, I was dealing with all sorts of crazy problems. I had been to dozens and dozens and spent thousands of dollars on all types of doctors. And I came to the realization that I was just not aligned spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And after that session, there was nothing really particular about that session that stuck out. Yeah, that first one that really stuck out where I could say it was this specific moment. But that true feeling I had at the end when I sat up, and I don't even think I really knew what a shaman was, to be honest.
Actually, the shaman, your comment on me being a shaman was actually like after a year.
Yeah, exactly. Like after that specific session, I felt something so different wasn't.
Yes.
That's what I meant. Like nothing in the session really like, oh, there was a specific moment. It was just at the end that I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah, she literally sat up on the table and said, I think you're a shaman. She looked at me and she goes, "You're a shaman." And I was like, shh, don't tell anybody. Because I wasn't letting that out of the bag. I don't like to advertise that because I'll tell you why. I didn't want to have to dress up in feathers and leather and, dance around. And I was like,
I mean, that would have been kind of cool. But, but not necessary.
It would be a good ambiance.
Yeah, exactly. A good vibe and experience.
Maybe I have to try that. But because there's kind of a cliche. Anybody can say they're a shaman, but that doesn't make them one. So what makes a person shamanistic is what they do and how they affect your energy, as well as being able to bring to your awareness any patterns of, for lack of a better word, bullshitness.
Yeah. And for me,
we all have.
That's exactly what it was. It was the awareness, but also that intuition component of it. It almost felt like, I don't know how else to compare it, but like a mom and a daughter.
Right.
Like a mom always knows what's going on with their daughter,
right.
whether the daughter tells them or not.
Right.
And that's the exact same intuition I felt with you, where you're like, how was your day? And you usually just say good, whether your day was really crappy or not. And you're like, was it though? And I'm like, oh shit, she saw right through me. Yes, let's dive into that, So I think a lot of it was that intuition, but also that awareness to myself that I think we just get caught up in day by day.
Right.
and lose that awareness. Like
exactly.
We just lose it, and you bring that to our attention.
Right. So bringing you back. Stephanie, in her interview, we talked about having a point of which, not really accountability, but a point of being able to check in and have somebody just, I don't know, just kind of pull you back into, in your visceral body, in your sense of who you are, on what you're doing, how are you living your life with intention.
Exactly.
And that's really it. And so when Nicolle first came, she wasn't sleeping, she was having nightmares, she was not pooping, and that was our first. It's kind of always the gateway, because so much stuff happens when you get people. In order to get somebody having really regular bowel movements, that means the entire digestive system is suffering from innervation due to a post-traumatic stress or, whatever it is, trauma. And that's exactly where she was at. So we immediately started working with calming down her nervous system and getting her pooping. And that was just like, her recovery in that area was just, it was miraculous.
Miraculous is honestly the only way I could see it, because I spent so much of my life, it feels like my entire life since childhood, in fight or flight mode.
Right.
Consistently. There was no chill Nicolle. There was no relax Nicolle. It was just the go, go, go. Always doing one thing or another, and never really taking the time to be intentional, checking in with myself and be like, how am I living my life?
Right.
Is it with intention? Am I aware of what's going on? It was never that until I came to you. And I think we just get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of life, just living.
Right.
Trying to get bills paid, family, all that good stuff.
Just living is enough to take you out of that. And that's why we want to really slow our life down. But in addition to that, we all come into the world with drivers. And we were talking about this earlier this morning. The energy that goes into your conception and the energetic pool that you grow up in, whether it's nurturing and affirming or whether it's chaotic and filled with, conflict between parents and personalities or addiction issues or whatever it is, that's the pot that you steep in as a child, and that's going to affect, because it's all information that goes into the abstract self that can take off as a driver and propel you in a course of action or a way of being, a way of living in your body that is inherently going to start working against you at a certain point in time. And Nicolle had been in the military, and she was the most compliant client ever. If I told her to do it, she was going to do it. She was going to do it right. She was going to do it every day. And then after a while, I had to say, okay, let's soften our grip a little bit here, because she was also like, okay, let's get this fixed. I want to get this fixed. So the compliance works really well in that it's supporting her evolving with her physiology, but it can also work against awareness, because ultimately your ability to shift your body has to come from your awareness.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit. So anyway, she made a miraculous recovery. She poops like a racehorse now. And
now the whole world knows.
And
it's out there.
The whole world knows. She's a great pooper now. Hallelujah. The most compliant client ever. If I told her to do it, she was going to do it. She was going to do it right. She was going to do it every day. And then after a while, I had to say, okay, let's soften our grip a little bit here, because she was also like, okay, let's get this fixed. I want to get this fixed. So the compliance works really well in that it's supporting her evolving with her physiology, but it can also work against awareness, because ultimately your ability to shift your body has to come from your awareness.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit. So anyway, she made a miraculous recovery. She poops like a racehorse now. And
now the whole world knows.
And
it's out
now
there.
The whole world knows. She's a great pooper now. Hallelujah. That's a big deal. Like
it truly is.
It is truly a big deal. Yeah. But not only, what happened is she was having trouble with her skin, and that cleared up. And she was having challenges in other areas of her life that she began to get a whole new insight, and that's that shamanistic aspect. So we're going to talk a few minutes about that, because from the time she sat up on the table and said, "You're a shaman," I was like, "Yes." And so that was then the opening of a level of trust.
Oh, 100%.
Like that?
Yes,
yeah.
100%. And I think without that awareness on my behalf, I don't think we maybe could have gotten as far as we have.
Exactly.
Propelled not only our relationship, but also my healing.
Right.
That's essentially what it comes down to. But I think that's a realization we all have to make on our own terms, on our own time.
Exactly.
Because I think there's some people you could have done the exact same thing and they would have never come to that.
They would never, exactly.
And then it wouldn't have worked.
That's it. And we were just talking about this earlier because there's a lot of programs out there that people do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just was checking out the DNRS, and I'm sure it's a really great program, but it's a regimented program that is a prescribed things that you do. And I think if it doesn't evolve out of your own authentic journey,
it's just not going to work. And maybe it will, right? Like you said, I was very routine based, and I've tried so many programs where I'm like, all right, I hit every mark.
The most compliant, and none of those things ever worked for her.
Exactly.
Right.
So I can't imagine somebody who's less compliant and so desperate. And I think I always came from a place of desperation. I needed to fix myself.
Yes.
Until I came to you and I realized I'm not broken. I don't need to fix myself. That's not the approach that needs to be taken. And none of these programs prove that. It was just like, how to fix yourself.
Right.
This is what you need to do to not be broken anymore.
Right.
And
supposedly.
So, yeah, supposedly. And so what do you think?
Someone's theory.
You think I'm broken and I need fixing. But
right.
That's not the right approach to take.
I can't say it any better than that. So we just continued to develop a relationship of working shamanistically. And interestingly enough, I was also working with her mother.
A 2-for-1 deal.
I tell you what. So that opens up a whole other realm. And so we did do a lot of work around identification with mother and being able to, to set boundaries and to redefine a relationship. And I'm happy to say there's been a lot of progress.
Oh my gosh. Since, my mother and I first started seeing Vanessa, it's been, I feel like 10 years of therapy, if that makes any sense, condensed into like 1 or 2 years of really setting healthy boundaries for both of us, not just for myself or for my mother, but just to have a whole different type of relationship that we probably never thought would have been possible without Vanessa. And I think that's the truly magical part about working with a shaman like her, just having these different emotions evoked in you that really come from a place of love, care, compassion, not just a place of judgment. And coming from somebody who's been to therapy, I'm 36 now, since 21, I've been going to therapy on and off. I feel like our relationship and our classes, if you may, I don't really know what to call it, our teaching?
The educational process.
Education process.
It's really just an educational process. That's why, I'm coming out with the Learn and Heal, because I am just simply educating you to become more aware so that you can listen, because it all comes from you. And everyone that comes to see me, they have physical issues, and we want to support the physical body, but there's also issues of the heart. Mm-hmm. And so those issues of the heart, those drivers from our early childhood, the abstract part of us that we're not cognizant of, but yet run in the background all the time, that requires a degree of self-compassion to be able to dive into that awareness and bravely be with what you find there, knowing that you don't have to fix or change it, you simply are sitting with it. And that's
so hard for everyone. I think
really
not
hard.
Anyone can really sit with how uncomfortable that is.
That's amen. It's an uncomfortable place, and that's where a shamanistic individual supports you through that, which is really uncomfortable. It's sort of like having a labor coach.
Yeah, exactly. I think in theory we all know what to do.
Yes.
But the execution of it is so difficult without a mentor or a coach to be like, okay, it's okay to feel that way.
Right.
It's okay to feel the guilt, the anger, the disgruntledness, whatever that may be over X event.
Right.
But you have to be okay with yourself and be okay and have that awareness of I can move past this.
Right. And coming to that being okay with yourself is really, this goes all the way back to the very first person that I ever did any reading besides Jethro Clausen, Back to Eden, Louise Hay. And Louise Hay was really big on mirror work and being able to truly, truly love yourself. And one of the biggest breakthroughs that I had in my healing process that started many, many years ago was standing in front of the mirror, in a big full-length mirror in my bathroom, and just bursting into tears over how much I had not been able to love myself.
Yeah.
Coming up into the world because of rejection and difficult things that I had in my childhood. So yeah, it's having somebody to be with on that journey is absolutely essential.
Yeah, because it's so easy to look at others and, well, this is your fault and these are all the things you did wrong.
Right, XYZ.
Yes, but you stand in front of a mirror and be like, well, what do I need to work past? I don't think we do that enough.
Yeah.
We blame mom and dad and sister and brother
Evolve.
and whatnot. Yes.
Evolve. See,
exactly.
She still wants to work at things. It's a constantly correcting her. We're evolving.
Yes, exactly. The evolution of ourselves.
Like she needs to be fixed. No.
And that's honestly
Just bringing her attention back to.
Yes, exactly. Because at least me, I will speak for myself. I always thought there was something to fix, something to work on. And I'm like,
give me a project.
Yes, but why not come from a place of evolution? Like, I'm growing, I'm developing.
And compassion,
like we said, right? Like loving yourself and like, it's okay.
Right. It's okay if I'm here a mess.
Exactly.
It's all right. You feel the way you do for a good reason. So she had a lot of resentment and a lot of frustration, which she had for a good reason. And when I was like probably the first person to say, well, of course you feel this way. How could you not?
Being seen and validated, I think, was such a huge component for me, where I'm like, all right, am I just being like a big baby about this? Like, was that really
toughen up, Nicolle?
Exactly. And
get with the program.
And maybe that was the military side of me where I'm like, is that really childhood trauma? Like, is that really a big deal?
Right.
And somebody like Vanessa coming to you and saying, you are validated in what you feel. And I would have felt the exact same way. And I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe I'm not being a baby about this. Like, my feelings are truly validated.
Right.
It's okay to feel this way and not beat myself up over feeling that way.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Exactly. And understanding that until you're able to just accept this is the way I feel and really be honest and own it, you can't begin to digest it because it's too much. You also can't digest it if you're not sleeping or pooping. So that's why we do breathing, sleeping, laughing, and pooping. And then that begins to grow into other more esoteric aspects of healing, the healing process. And we're all going to be in the healing process our entire life. And we're either growing, evolving, and becoming more true to our true divine nature, or we're moving away from that, or we're completely stagnant. So there's kind of no in-betweens. And for those who are called to a higher walk, you are not going to be satisfied to just be stagnant. There's some people don't even know there's a question to be asked. And sometimes ignorance is bliss, but they oftentimes are in very detrimental patterns of addiction and behavioral issues that are just not working for them. But that doesn't really matter to them, and it's a weird kind of division place, but it does exist. And so there are people who come in that are just not ready, and then there are people who come in who are just super ready, and then I have to go, okay, slow down, girl.
I mean, if you would have told me when Vanessa told me, once you start pooping and sleeping, life will change, and it will bring up all this stuff, I'm like, this lady is crazy. There's no way. I'm like, there's no way. That's not going to be a thing.
That can't possibly work. The first couple sessions, Ernesto came with her, and he's like, yeah, this is exactly what I've been telling her. And I'm like, amen, brother. And she's like, okay, you too. And so literally the first month or so, she's like, she's coming, she's trusting me, she's thinking this can't possibly be this easy. And then all of a sudden we arrived at a place where she's like, this is incredible.
And honestly, I feel like we arrived so quickly there, organically and naturally.
Yes.
Where, I never felt like there was a next step to take. But when I arrived, I'm like, okay, that is naturally where I feel the next step should be. Yeah. Into like what's going on with me spiritually or emotionally or
what led to not being able to sleep and not being able to poop.
And although in my mind that makes 100% sense, if you're not pooping and sleeping you can't feel well or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah, you're out of touch with yourself.
Exactly. Once I started sleeping and also pooping, I'm like, oh look, there are those feelings and emotions I've repressed for so many years.
There's that better. I have more bandwidth.
I have more energy because I was working like a madman back then to 12, 14-hour days sometimes, and I was exhausted at the end of the day. I started resting and pooping, and I'm like, oh, I can work 18 hours if I needed to, not that I want to, right? But you had that bandwidth. You had that capacity where I'm like, oh, I still feel okay spending time with family after a 14-hour day. Like, I feel good.
Right.
And I think, again, with the hustle and bustle, we don't realize how much we don't feel well.
Exactly.
We're always drained.
Yes.
I'm like, somebody fill my gas tank because I'm barely surviving. I'm sluggish. And
and then that's when we go to alcohol, chocolate,
eating unhealthy,
Starbucks,
fast
junk food, fast food. That's when we go there.
Because it makes us feel good.
Yeah, because it stimulates the nervous system. Exactly. So now here's what happens. They get so smart. As we expand, I'm hoping that some of my inner circle people will start sharing in the process and become contributors and continue to tell their stories. And my whole goal of starting Bridge to Health was to create literally a bridge to health. And I want people to become bridge crossers, get across that bridge and start sharing that with others so that we can all heal together and just enjoy life more. This is the bottom line. I used to tell her, you don't have to be fixed. I just want you to enjoy your life more. She'd say, I have to do this. I'm like, you might enjoy doing that.
If there's one thing I learned from Vanessa, there is no haves. You don't have to do anything. You have to breathe and you have to eat. That's about the only
You don't even have to do that.
You don't even have to if you don't want
to.
to.
You don't have to do that. You can give that up.
There's it would be nice to go to the beach. I don't have to go to the beach this morning. I don't have to do the dishes right now. And that's something, I've heard from
I don't
my
have to
husband
do my
for
vagus
years.
nerve stimulation exercises.
Exactly.
I don't have to, I'm just going to get up and see what I feel like doing. Rather than a prescribed regimen of this is what I'm doing and this is what I have to do.
And now that I do that, I wake up on weekends and my husband's like, what's the plan? Because that's who I used to be.
Right.
We got to do A through Z by 10 a.m. and now we have a 6-month-old, so time crunch now. And I'm like, I don't know, we'll see where the day takes us. And he's like, so where's Nicolle? I was like, what do you mean, where's Nicolle? He's like, you would never say this. You would never say, let's see where the world takes us today. He's like, where's the list of 20 crazy things we need to get done by 9 a.m.? And I'm like, oh, that's the old me.
Whatever.
God knows I still have those tendencies, right? Where some days I'm like, let's go. But now it's just more about enjoying life and being aware of what's happening. Like, oh, I feel sluggish today. Like, what's going on? What am I holding on to? And then we have a good day because we know.
And it's reflected in her beautiful face because when she came to see me, she was like this.
I really was.
Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Vanessa Goldine, Bridge to Health Wellness and Awaken and Evolve Learning Center, and coming soon, Learn and Heal courses, online courses that anybody can enjoy.